They thought it would be just another pre-dawn inspection, but at 5:14 in the morning in Austin, Texas, nothing was routine anymore. Federal armored teams moved through the fog, engines low, lights killed, forming a silent ring around the Secretary of State's headquarters. The building sat calm, almost peaceful, the kind of quiet that lies. Then the battering ram hit. Steel buckled, door hinges tore apart, and what looked like a state office revealed something far darker. Rows of vacuum-sealed meth bricks stacked like cargo. Industrial fentanyl pressed into perfect blocks. Custom-modified rifles lined along walls where portraits of democracy once hung. In the center of it all, Secretary Ethan Mallory stood motionless, wrists extended, eyes empty. No resistance, no outrage. Only the hollow stillness of a man who already knew this moment was coming. And within seconds, Texas realized the unimaginable. A state office had become a cartel command post. On paper, Ethan Mallory lived the picture-perfect life of a Texas statesman. A polished suburban home, a trimmed lawn, a quiet street where neighbors waved during morning walks. But appearances are the first casualty in any cartel investigation. At 0630, when federal teams breached the front door, the mask collapsed instantly. The living room looked ordinary. Family photos, award plaques, a fireplace straight out of a real estate brochure. But the basement told the truth. Concrete walls reinforced, climate control vents humming quietly, rows of crates stacked with military precision. Inside them, agents found 96 rifles, many of them custom-modified with illegal optics and short-barrel kits. More than 40,000 rounds of ammunition were sorted by type, as if prepared for distribution to multiple cells. Then came the narcotics. Nearly 950 pounds of crystal meth and fentanyl bricks, vacuum-sealed, labeled, and ready to move. The street value hovered around $14 million. But the real danger was not the money. It was the scale. One agent whispered that this single haul held enough poison to wipe out an entire generation. Outside the home, stunned reporters watched as crates were hauled up the basement stairs in endless lines. Commentators asked how a man entrusted with safeguarding elections and public records could turn his house into a fortress of death. But the truth ran deeper. This was not a politician gone rogue. This was an administrative hub in a much larger machine. A machine that had been operating under the cover of government authority. And the deeper investigators dug, the darker it became. The turning point came when digital forensics cracked a folder buried behind layers of encryption. Inside were financial routes, coded manifests, and a single name repeated like a signature across all major orders: Martha Alicia Mendez Aguilar. Outwardly, she was the elegant spouse of a rising political figure, but in cartel circles, she carried a different title. Whispered like a curse, Lady Diabla, the she-devil. Intelligence agencies had heard rumors for years about a female strategist orchestrating hits across the southern border. Dozens of assassinations, vanishing witnesses, relocation of entire trafficking cells. But no image, no fingerprint, no public appearance. She existed as a ghost, a rumor kept alive only by trails of bodies. The discovery hit Washington like a shockwave. Martha Aguilar had entered the country legally more than a decade earlier. She married Mallory shortly after he began his movement through state politics. What no one realized was that she used the legitimacy of his office to construct a camouflage that no cartel had ever achieved before. The state seal itself became a shield for trafficking routes. Official paperwork disguised cartel shipments as routine interagency cargo. Lady Diabla wasn't hiding in the shadows. She was standing in the center of the state's political machinery, pulling levers and turning gears. Every document she touched, every approved request, every routing code she signed became another artery in a biological system, feeding narcotics north and returning weapons south. The truth was now unmistakable. Mallory was never the architect. He was the front. The real empire builder was the woman no one ever thought to question. And she was still missing. Federal command did not wait. At 0452 the next morning, Operation Iron Veil went live nationwide. Helicopters thundered over Texas skies. Armored convoys rolled out like columns of steel vertebrae. Agencies that normally worked in silos were suddenly synchronized into one unified strike organism with a single mission: cut every artery before Lady Diabla could activate a counterattack. The first target was El Paso, a warehouse listed as an agricultural distributor. The exterior was mundane, loading docks quiet, trucks parked neatly. But inside, agents found a fleet of semi-trucks modified with double walls designed to defeat X-ray scans. Compartments ran along the trailers like hidden veins, large enough to move thousands of pounds undetected. When cartel guards opened fire, the firefight lasted 2 minutes and 47 seconds. One agent went down with a shoulder wound. 7 cartel soldiers were neutralized or captured. The facility fell. The second target was Laredo. This time, the objective was intelligence, not firepower. In a legal freight logistics center, agents seized ledgers and encrypted drives. The data mapped distribution across 30 states, forming a latticework of narcotics, weapons, and cash movements. It proved the operation wasn't local. It was national infrastructure. Every recovered file pointed to the same chilling truth. Lady Diabla had not built a network. She had built a system. And systems don't vanish when you arrest foot soldiers. They adapt. By the third day, analysts realized they were not dismantling a cartel. They were dissecting something more complex. The FBI labeled it the organism, a term that captured both its structure and its threat. Each trafficking route had a backup route. Each shell company had a twin ready to activate. It was a self-healing system, designed to survive raids, arrests, and political disruption. Agents studying the logistics noticed a pattern. Every northern movement of narcotics was mirrored by a southern movement of weapon parts. A two-way wheel. Drugs moving up, guns moving down. Everything disguised under state-authorized cargo, official seals, and priority routing codes. Border inspections waved these shipments through without suspicion because the paperwork appeared flawless. The more investigators mapped the structure, the more the situation resembled a hostile biological takeover. Cartel operatives were embedded inside law enforcement, customs, transportation offices, even forensics labs. When one pathway closed, another opened automatically. It wasn't corruption. It was infiltration at the level of cellular design. For federal leadership, the nightmare scenario was now clear. If this model existed in Texas, it could exist in any state. The architecture was replicable, scalable, and, worst of all, stable without a central brain. Even if Lady Diabla vanished, the organism could keep functioning for years. For the first time, veteran agents began to whisper the unthinkable. This was no longer just a criminal enterprise. It was a parallel system of governance. 72 hours after the first breach, the arrest count passed 800. Traffickers, drivers, logistics coordinators, corrupt officers, customs screeners, even forensic technicians who manipulated lab results. It was the kind of purge usually seen in collapsing states, not within the borders of the United States. But victory was an illusion. Every time a unit celebrated a takedown, intelligence teams uncovered another layer, another safe house, another shell corporation that fed into the organism. The structure behaved like a living creature under stress, contracting in some areas, expanding in others, rerouting flows while appearing dormant. Meanwhile, political shockwaves hit Texas. Lawmakers scrambled to explain how a Secretary of State's office had been converted into a cartel operations center without anyone noticing. Security experts pointed out that the system did not need to bribe everyone. It only needed to compromise a small circle positioned at key administrative choke points. Once paperwork became a weapon, oversight became meaningless. As public pressure mounted, federal agencies warned that the operation was far from over. Lady Diabla remained at large, likely moving through safe corridors she had engineered years earlier. The encrypted files suggested she maintained a contingency plan capable of reactivating critical nodes anywhere in the country within days. The question haunting Washington was unsettling and simple. What if this was only one chapter of a much larger design? When the news broke that a state official had weaponized his office against his own people, the nation felt something deeper than outrage. It felt betrayal. Citizens wondered how long their institutions had been vulnerable, how many decisions were influenced by hands loyal not to the flag, but to a shadow empire built on chemical death. Commentators asked the questions no administration wants to hear. Who monitors the watchdogs? Who protects the oversight system from those who control it? And how many Lady Diablas still sit quietly inside public offices, signing papers that reshape the country in ways no one voted for? The investigation may have stopped the bleeding, but the wound remained open. America learned that corruption was not its greatest enemy. Complacency was. Empires do not fall in daylight. They fall when silence becomes policy. If you want more deep investigations, real tactical breakdowns, and stories that pull back the curtain on modern threats, subscribe, turn on notifications, and stay with us. There is much more to uncover.